Hello, Fearless Gamers, Matt here for Fearless Games, and welcome to another video review. How's it going, everybody? So in today's video we're going to be looking at the Everlasting Wet Palette Painter Lite version by Redgrass. For those who may not know, a wet palette is... the idea behind it is this is a container with a sponge that's sitting in a small pool of water, and on top of that is a thin piece of parchment paper that the water is like sort of slowly seeped through the back of it. And it helps keep the paints wet for much longer and also helps you thin them out. I always use those old plastic palettes that GW used to sell, and I've never really thought about switching over, but I've always heard how much of a game changer this is and how great wet palettes are, and so I decided to give it a shot. One other benefit about these wet palettes, for those who may be still wondering, what other than just it keeps the paint wet, it can also help the paints last a little longer. And you can also store your paints when you have to stop midway through a project. So like, for example, in that Joy of Painting Minis video where I painted the Tau Emissary and I had to mix the two colors to make the highlight, if I was planning to paint more ships and I wanted to paint them on a different day, the wet palette would have kept that highlight color wet longer, so then I could have come back the next day and still have that fresh color. It would be the exact same paint I used on the Emissary. So let's dive right in a little bit. What do you get here? This is like I said, the Painter Lite version. There is another size one up, which is an XL. And what you get with it is you get the container, you get this elastic band that helps keep this together. There is actually a notch on the bottom here where you can actually see where the elastic band's supposed to go across the palette, which is nice. And when you open this up, you see you got your lid with a rubber gasket to help keep the water contained. Even though it's got this gasket on there, this is not a perfectly watertight seal, so be careful when transporting. And then right here, we got our sponge right here that's sitting in water. It's a little damp right now. And we got our parchment paper, and we got some paint here. So these two are fairly old paint colors. This one is slightly younger than these two patches, and this paint was here for about like 2 or 3 days, and it's hard to see, but there's a few little bit of droplets left on here, so I could use this color to paint more models if I wanted to. This is the youngest. This has only been on here for about 2.5 to 3 hours, and it is still fairly wet. And actually, it's almost fresh out of the pot. There's a little bit of separation I do have to mix in, but overall, it looks like it's still nice and fresh from when I started the paint session. And as I said, it keeps it nice and wet, and it makes it a lot easier to thin. One of the issues I do have when painting sometimes is I'll either over-thin or under-thin my paints by taking the brush and dipping it in a pot of water. This way, I don't have to do that. I could just take a little bit, go in an unused area of the palette, and it comes out nice and thin, and it's consistently thin. No matter how many times I go back to the paint, it's the same consistency each time, which is great. And like I said, it makes painting a little bit easier because I don't feel like I'm wasting paint. I feel like I could sit down, paint for an hour or two, close this up, put it away, and I don't feel like I'm wasting paint because I only got like a small bit. Like, for example, I got this large blob of paint here. Clearly I'm not finished, but I can go right back and the paint's fresh and ready to go. Hydrating the sponge mid-painting isn't really that hard. I got some plastic pipettes. I get my jug of distilled water, which you should be using distilled water because it helps prevent bacterial growth. And I take it and I just dab it along the edges, give it enough water for the sponge to absorb it, and it rehydrates the paper, and I can go back to painting like I was. Overall, like I said, huge game changer. I don't think I can go back to a dry palette after using one of these. So I cannot recommend these enough. When you buy the kit, you get the container, the elastic band, the lid, 2 sponges, and you can purchase more. I found out you go directly to their website for Redgrass, and you can get more of the sponges if you want. And you get a pack of 50 sheets, and they sell them in packs of 50. So you got about 50 sheets of these that you can go through before you need to switch it out. If you don't like the idea of throwing out paper, what you can do, they do sell a palette that I don't know if the foam is usable in this thing. I would have to check that, but they do have a foam pad that functions as both the sponge for the water and the palette. So you don't use a piece of paper, you just put it directly on the foam, clean off the foam between sessions, let it dry, and bam, you're good to go. I do like the fact that you can purchase extra sponges, because I just like to know that I can do that. The paper is the one thing that's really important that you need to replace, but for me, knowing my luck, I just hate the idea of buying this, getting the sponge, then like, oh, too bad, you can't get the sponges, you have to buy a whole new palette. Not the case here. You can buy the sponge by itself. And this is like I said, the Painter Lite version. They do, and it's orange. They sell a XL, which is blue, which is a lot bigger. I'd say that this one is just perfect for me. I don't really see why I would need the larger size one. Probably if I was using a lot more colors, so I would need a lot more room to keep them separated, then yeah, but primarily when I paint, I usually only using 2 or 3 colors at a time. So this is, I think, the perfect size for me, and plus with my small desk space, this was also great because it doesn't take up a whole lot of room. But if you're going to be using a lot of different colors all at once, you might want to go with the XL size version of this guy. Like I said, can't recommend this enough. If you're interested in this particular wet palette, I'll put a link to where I purchased it. And I'm also going to it's going to be in the description, and I'm also going to put a link to Redgrass themselves if you want to look at all their different products, because like I said, I purchased this on Amazon, but they don't have all of their different items available on Amazon. You go to their store directly, you can get all the different items that they sell. Like I said, when I was looking when I was only looking at them on Amazon, I didn't realize there was that sponge palette combo piece. Because the reason I actually went to the website itself was because I noticed they didn't have any foam sponges available, and I wanted to see if it was possible to purchase that. And like I said, you can. So overall, this thing is great. What do you guys think? Those who use wet palettes yourselves, do you love them? Do you hate them? What do you like using them for? Do you have a particular brand that you like? What do you think of the Redgrass one if you've used theirs? Like I said, for a first-time user, this thing was just phenomenal. I cannot say how well, I can't praise them enough for how great this product was. So that is all for right now. Thank you all for watching. If you haven't already, hit that like button so this video gets circulated. Hit that subscribe button so you can know when more videos come out. Hit that little bell icon so you'll actually get told when more videos come out. And until next time, fearless gamers, take care.